Well, all right. Hello, hello. We are back again for another Wet Ink Wednesday, and I have August Hahn, freelance
Hello.
wordsmith, uh, general man about town in the gaming industry. Professional professional, doing air quotes,
Right, right.
podcaster. Lots of titles, lots of titles. August, welcome to this conversation.
That's great to talk to you again. It's like we just met earlier this month or something.
Well, yeah, I mean that's on my list of things that we could talk about is like we were both at the Gamma trade show a few weeks ago and
Indeed.
we actually spent probably more time face to face at the Gamma trade show than at any previous event ever
Yeah, just about. We're
because
we're
I
usually we're usually two passing ships at every con we go to.
Well, I know, and that's sort of like you have your hand in like all the nerd pies, right? Because you I saw you at the Catalyst booth, and then you were demoing games, the abstract strategy games in the demo hall, and then don't you like teach people Robotech too? Like, aren't you with the Robotech people? And then
Battlefield Press. Yeah, yeah, I'm with
okay,
them too.
and then you've got Lone Wolf in the background, and you're all over the
Yep.
Lone Wolf scene. Like you are the podcast, at least one of the podcasts that you do is called Journeys Through Magnamund, which we can also talk about. So,
Please.
um, which is about the lore of the Lone Wolf series, for
Right.
those who don't know what it is. Uh, so anyway, what I'm asking here is like are these like all like what's the start of August as a nerd? Do these all go back, or have you slowly acquired all of these things over time to become the gestalt being that you are now? Or
Honestly, I thought your first question was going to be, do you sleep or are you a robot?
well, since you brought it up, do you sleep or are you a robot?
Not as much as I should, and possibly.
Possibly.
If so, it's like a Battlestar Galactica kind of Cylon situation where I don't really know yet.
No, it's yet to be revealed in season 3 whether or not you're a
Right,
robot.
right. Well, all right. Okay, it's a fair question. Go ahead and ask it again, and I'll.
Yeah, I mean, like the I always want to know how people get started, right? Because there's the like you're a child and you start to do games, and then like at some point later you're like, no, 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 I'm going to like work for games,
All
and
right.
there's like that transition point. Like you can start with the first one if you want, but I'm really more interested in the like, no, wait, I can do this. And what's that trigger for you when you're like, which when you started to make stuff to go with
Well,
what you were presumably already doing, and
hmm.
you know, tell me what's the story?
Okay. Well, let me access my false human childhood. Okay, I got it. Okay, so I was born in an Air Force family, right?
Okay,
And we like my first memories are of our posting when we were in Saudi Arabia, living on an Air Force compound. There weren't a lot of other children, so there really weren't. So about all I had to keep me busy, so that I wasn't constantly in my parents' hair, were books. They would shove whatever they could find at me. So I read Tolkien. I read fantasy novels and science fiction, going back to Roger Zelazny. I've been Isaac Asimov, just all kind of Stephen R. Donaldson. By the way, while they are excellently written, I do not recommend the White Gold Wilder series. It is
yeah,
depressing as hell.
uh,
I say that, but they're actually really good books. So yeah, I started reading at the age of one, because
all right,
it was what I was taught to do.
sure.
Mostly because I was very precocious, and my parents liked it when I was quiet and in a room I couldn't damage anything in. So I read a lot, and when you read a lot, you're feeding your brain, right?
Sure.
So and it was almost all fantasy and science fiction, and so that's just what I grew up with. So I think it was kind of inevitable that I would be in this field, writing, because I also write novels, novels
Okay.
and short stories. So I actually
That
found gaming much later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me because I think where I met you through Brandon and Brandon met you at Imaginarium, which is the like writers group or a writers
Yep.
event that happens here in Louisville. So all
That's a
right.
great
So
event too. I highly recommend it.
it's right. So I mean it's great for exactly the when you're just starting out, right? That's the
Right.
thing.
My flavor of nerd. Yes, exactly.
Well, I only put a conditional on it because like it was not we went hoping to sell role-playing games and it was not a good show for that, but it was a
No, I can see
but
that.
that is not so it's for if you're there as a writer, it's good for you, right?
Right,
But
right.
so like all right, so you start reading at one. Uh then like how long did it take you before like short stories first or did you jump right into novels? Like what?
Short stories first.
Yeah.
I think my very first one I wrote when I was 6. Oh, and it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But I didn't stop, and I didn't let that stop me. Uh,
Yeah, that's so
and
important.
I think my teachers also realized that if they just let me sit in the corner and write, that I didn't cause them any problems, and I didn't light any more fires. So because they encouraged me, that just set me on my path.
Sure. So did you have like, I mean, this is sort of like a, I don't know, hopefully you don't take this the wrong way, but like, is it like, did you get, how successful have you been as a novelist? Like, was a thing that was like, this is fun to do, but like, I need somebody to pay me to put in the volunteer hours at a con. Like, what is the,
Sadly, that is the case.
yeah,
I have 2 novels published. I have a bunch of short stories in various anthologies. Of course, lots of RPG stuff. Uh,
sure.
but unfortunately, it is very difficult to make a living doing that. So it has been off and on over the last 25, 30 years. It's been a matter of sometimes it's feast, sometimes it's famine.
Hmm,
And that's just one of the hard truths of this industry.
sure. I mean, it's right. Yeah, I mean, if you're putting yourself out there and like getting a bunch of jobs one year, all those books come out like 2 years after that, and then
Right.
like you haven't done any, like then everybody wants to talk to you again because you're in like 17, whatever, not 17, but like that'd be insane to be in like 17 books in one year, but like that freelance thing. So you said like the gaming came second. So like where did that come in? Like, did you, because I can imagine that, like, I mean, I've talked to other people who had that, like, army base experience, and they're like, the guys at the post were playing games. And so, like, they brought me in. Is that games for you, or is it more like the lone wolf isolation? Here's
For
this
me,
one
it was Lone
quiet
Wolf.
thing.
For me, it was Lone Wolf. I was 12 and I found this book and I thought it was fantastic. And then I started to read it. And I admit at first I was very disappointed because it wasn't a book.
Hmm.
It was a weird page flippy book where the story stopped and started and it didn't make any sense. And then I bothered to read the rules and I realized it was a game. And all the lights came on. And that's when I was introduced to gaming.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know what I would have done if that's my first context with gaming because it wasn't. I mean, it was a TSR product that was my first
Which one?
game. The Marvel superheroes game. Definitely
Uh,
what is it? People call it phase rip. Is that what people
Phase
call it?
rip after the statistics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Somebody posted a picture of the stat blocks, like, and I was like, it was like painful, right? I was like, oh,
Right.
I remember these. Oh,
And the
and
chart that looked like a rainbow. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's
Love it.
only three colors, but like, yeah,
Well,
that
but it was
game.
banded and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I loved
It was a mess.
it.
I-
It was, but it was great.
my I was a child, and my dad had no context for this, so we tried to play a couple times, and
Mm.
it was not a successful gaming experience. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I imagine not.
yeah, but I mean that was probably about the same time that I was reading uh choose your own adventure type books. But I don't think I read a game book like that until much later. So I
Mm.
knew by then it was like this is a role-playing game in the form of a book. I knew how to do it.
Whereas
Yeah.
I had the other
Yeah,
reaction,
yeah.
which was because it wasn't very long after my very first Lone Wolf book that I discovered the Red Box, which D&D original basic set. The one I found was pink because it was the one right after the white box. It's funny that they're all basically grouped in colors, but that was pretty much the way it was back then.
I was I thought you were gonna I assumed you were gonna say that it was faded because you bought it secondhand in like a shop
Oh
window or
no,
something
oh
like
no, I
that.
got mine brand new because
Nice.
I sold greeting cards around the neighborhood.
Huh.
I don't know if anybody who's listening to this will be able to will know what I'm talking about, but you used to be able to basically sign up to companies in the backs of comic books even, and they'd let you sell boxes of greeting cards and you'd get prizes. And what I did when I was that young was I sold a bunch of greeting cards, and my prize was the D&D basic box set,
Wow.
and that's how I got a hold of it.
Cool. Like from the actual you you're looking at the like little newsprint magazine that's like this
Mm-hmm.
is 1,500 points or whatever of
That's exactly right. I think it was actually
wow.
1,200, but you were pretty close.
I mean, I remember those like reward
Mm-hmm.
magazines or whatever, like how many gewgaws did you have to get, grandma's friends to buy before you could get your slide whistle toy, like
Yeah.
that kind of a
Yep.
that
Except
kind
for
of a
me, it
stuff.
was a lifelong addiction.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Yep.
So um yeah, so is it like the freelancing stuff then? Like is that what was the I mean, what was your like point at which you then were like, okay, so I've already been working on fiction writing, now I'm playing games. What was your first like was it again like I mean was there like a submission request in Dungeon Magazine or something like that you were like, oh, I could do that, why couldn't
You're
I?
you are 90% correct. It was a submission to Dragon magazine.
Is that what I said? Didn't I say Dragon
To
Magazine?
Dungeon. I think you said
Oh,
Dungeon,
okay.
which is literally the other half of that same magazine company.
Sure.
Because TSR had Dungeon and Dragon,
Hmm.
which I don't know where they came up with those two words.
Yeah, it's like, they're just tropes from the from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the genre,
But I submitted a couple of small articles and got one of them published, and then that convinced me that I might be able to do something in that space. Until then, I hadn't really written anything game related. And then a few more submissions to smaller companies, but it was real hit or miss. It was over a decade,
Hmm.
really. And during that time I was working in IT, and I was finishing my first degree, and things were really scattered. I gamed regularly. I had 3 campaigns a week, and I did some off and on stuff for family, but I
I'm
didn't write in it.
yeah. I'm I'm gonna guess that you say you had 3 campaigns a week. I'm gonna guess that you were the GM of at least one of them,
Oh,
if not all of them.
all three.
Yeah.
Yeah, forever GM. Yeah, I could have it as a button.
Yeah, you kind of have that energy about you, that like you're the forever GM.
I love the game master, so it works out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's where you talked about ships passing in the night. I usually am seeing you on your way to a game or coming from a game or, you know,
A couple of times you've walked by and I was running the games. So yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's the thing you like to do at the cons for sure.
I do. I do.
And so is that like what led you then to like being booth staff at like cons and stuff like that? Where like if you're at the con already, like, you meet the people who are running the booths and then or was
Right.
there another route into like the demo booth rep side that you do now?
I think it was my very first Gen Con that I realized that because they did an open call. At that point, it was still TSR, but not for much longer. Before Wizards of the Coast took over, and they did an open call for volunteers. And I was like, well, I'm going to the convention anyway, and I like to run games, so and it worked out. And since then, I volunteer for just about everybody who needs it.
And that's like I don't know, it's such a different energy than like I like to go to the con and I've run games occasionally, but like
Mm.
that's just not it's not the thing that I love about being at a con. I really like to be there. I mean, I guess it's different when I've got books that have my name in them, right? Because then
Well,
I
sure,
stand at
sure.
the booth, and what I really like is to like sell the product, and like we've got a spread of products, and I get to talk to 100 people in a day, rather than spend like 4 hours with these four people or six people
Right.
or eight people, and like that's just so much of it's such a different experience. But I mean, hats off to everybody who does that, because like that's the engine of those
Oh,
cons, is
sure.
like
It absolutely is.
all of those all of you people who are willing to do that. Like it is amazing. Like and the storytelling chops, the storytelling talent that
Well, when you're running a game at a convention, because I know that no matter what I do at a convention, I'm going to have a good time. Whether it's look around the dealer's room or talk to other publishers, friends like you and Brandon, I know that no matter where I go or what I do there, I'm going to have a good time. But if I run a game, then I'm making sure that at
mm,
the minimum, six other people are also going to have a good time,
yeah,
and that means a lot to me.
that's a great way to think of it. Uh yeah, that's nice. Well, thanks for taking that the origin story subroutine
Well,
closed.
I actually have a quick story about running a table you might appreciate.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so we were just talking about making sure people have a good time, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so one of my first actual games that I wrote for one of my first publishers, first big publishers, was the Babylon 5 role playing game,
nice.
which was a blast to work on. I got to meet several of the stars. I got to talk with JMS and all kinds of great lore. And I wrote a bunch of books for it. Well, again, Gen Con this time around, I was running a table for one of my very first scenarios, and this was fantastic. I still can't believe this actually worked. So earlier in the day, I had met with several actors because they were all there signing autographs. And in my scenario that I was running for the players, there was a point where they all got an alert from security with Michael Garibaldi, the chief of security, right, and the actor Jerry Doyle.
Hmm.
Well, we had to take a break for a break for a bathroom. Try that again, August. We had to take a bathroom break, and it was just before they were going to get their briefing. So I thought, what the heck? And I made it work. When they all came back, I told them that their links beep, because the link was just a little communicator they
Hmm.
wear in their hand. I told them their links beep, and this is what you hear. And Jerry Doyle walks up to the table and in character gives them their briefing. It was
Nice.
fantastic.
That's pretty
It
great.
it
That's
was
pretty
a it
great.
was a really good moment. It's one of my favorites from Gen Con.
Hmm. Yeah, there's I don't have anything to top that. That's fun.
It was a really fun moment, and it just goes to show that you can network these cons, right? You can
Hmm.
meet great people, you can run for great people, and running games for people is like a shared storytelling experience, right?
Sure.
It's, that's literal the essence of it. And when you're doing that, you're making connections, you're making friends, you're entertaining people, and I love that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, I'm going to shift gears a little bit here
Sure,
and
sure.
talk about ostensibly the reason why we're here to talk to you today is that you're a contributor to Never Going Home, which
We had
is
an agenda. I had no idea. But Never
uh,
Going Home is a great game. I love it.
well, I thank you. We're pretty happy with it, and you've been a contributor since the first Kickstarter.
Mhm.
The at least I think you ended up doing two adventures the first time around. Um,
Yes.
I think I can remember Rocket's Dread Glare, but I can't remember the other one. But I'm sure you did two in the first pass.
I
Um,
did two in the first pass, and then I'm sure you're going to talk about the third one
yeah,
for the
yeah. I
second
mean
Kickstarter.
that's yeah, the one that we were is was crowdfunded was it last year, like about a year ago, and it's
It was early
uh
last year.
your your adventure is in the 1914 supplement.
Yep.
And that one has at the time of recording, it is like done being laid out. So that is where it is in the process. So if you haven't checked that out on the the collaborator, the you've got access to it if you want to go look at it.
I've
As a
seen it actually. It looks fantastic.
contributor to the product. Yeah. Well,
I
great.
actually what I haven't seen though is because I also worked on the corruption rules for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Has that gotten into the layout as well?
No, that's I'm probably going to end up being the last one done because that's
Okay,
the in the from the Beyond the Veil book, which should probably be
that makes sense.
the last one that will be done. Matt will probably move on. The layout artist will probably move on to the 1918 book first.
I just hadn't seen it on the campfire, so I wasn't sure
Yeah,
where it was.
yeah. It's they're all he can only do one at a time.
Well, trust me, I know.
Right. So I when I was interviewing people last year as like part of the like kind of promotion of the campaign and we just missed each other schedule wise and stuff like that. Didn't get to talk to you then. So tell us a little bit without going into like full spoilers or anything like that, because it's adventure 5 of 6 adventures. So,
Right, right.
we don't tell us everything about it, but tell us what you wrote for uh the 1914 book. What's your contribution to the dossier?
Okay, so my contribution was basically a bunker adventure, right? So it's later on in the adventure series, so I won't give any spoilers around it. But effectively, the characters they have to go into a bunker that is actually part of an old hilltop fort. It used to be a castle, but it was mostly ruined. The catacombs, however, are fully intact, and that's real world true as well. So the heroes have to go in because they're still heroes. They may be deranged and turning into monsters, but they're still heroes.
That's
They have to
right.
go in and they have to locate these the eldritch items. They don't even really know what they're getting when they go in. They just know that there's a problem and they have to solve it. So they go in, and the deeper in they go, the more deranged things start to get.
Yeah, I
And
think
if they survive, then they come out with all the MacGuffins and some glory and probably a derangement or two.
I mean that's classic. That's a
That
classic setup.
pretty much.
Um, uh, and that's kind of like uh, when I read it, I was like, "Oh, this is some like Appendix N stuff that August is playing with here." And I'm like, I
Yep.
mean, I'm here for it, but it's like it's very like it's a lot of like showing your roots or whatever, like whatever phrase you want to say for it.
Perfectly valid.
Uh-huh. Um, uh, I
It's
mean,
the thing that I like the most about not about No Going Home is that yes, you can tell it just like a war story because it is effectively a war story. The whole game is,
sure.
but there's this supernatural undercurrent of horror and change and emotion and this sort of shadow veil just past what you can normally see. I find that absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. And I really like the way that you played with that, where like you also wrote the rules that are in the book for the uh, uh tattered veil, like the veil is thin, right, is like a phrase that
Right.
I think came from your writing that then got kind of bigged up and put in a couple other places to kind of like um accentuate that theme or whatever, where there's like, there's this because in the setting, the fiction of the setting, 1916 is when the veil tears apart, but like this is set in 1914, so there's like some pre not tear it's not a true rending of the veil, but it is the veil is thin, right?
It's warps in the cloth.
Yeah, yeah, it's you can start to see through it a little bit more because I'm trying to say like something like premonitions, right? It's a foretaste of the worst things that happen later, and so you put that in, and I think that's really great. That yeah, that like seeing beyond where you are supposed to be able to see, like in these certain circumstances, is pretty interesting. Um,
And it has all the negative effects you would think too, because you are definitely seeing things you should not.
yeah, for real. Uh, So did you have a um did you model the catacomb or the castle? Like was that like drawn from like I mean is it purely fictional, or were you like, oh no, this is some
It
research that I did and resulted in this?
Oh, I definitely researched the castle because it's a real hilltop fort and it was a real castle at one time. But the real catacombs are way too small for what I needed to write. So I did sort of build off it.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say that you did something pretty interesting with the sort of the central thing is as a dungeon crawl sort of experience or a bunker crawl or
With a
what you
bunker,
called
yeah.
it. Um, you've got basically a room assigned to each of the cards of a suit, and so you just stack up the cards and you flip them over, and that's the room you meet next. That's the room you meet next, and
Mhm.
the layout is randomized in that way. Um, and I thought that was it's great. You know, it's not something any of the writers have done before, but um, so I was happy to have it in there because it's something new and different. You know,
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
it,
I kind of wanted it to echo the fact that we had the tattered veil right there, and so even reality was starting to warp
mm,
around its edges,
rather than put a map, there's like the map is it could be anything almost, you know.
like a four-dimensional flowchart.
I mean, you could almost, I mean, this isn't in the rule book, but like, just now brainstorming or whatever, you're like, it's like you've got your suit of cards, so whatever that is, 13 cards or whatever, and then
Mhm.
like you're in this room, this is the card you're in, or this card represents the room you're in, and you can check that table and see what is going on in that room. And then when you leave that room, you draw another card. But then if you were to go back into the other room, then you draw another card. Like it's like
Right, right.
you're only in one room at a time, and all they're all
They're not
can be
actually physically connected in a way. Yeah,
but they could all connect to each other, whatever, depending on the
right.
randomness of the cards like that.
That's a good
That's
idea. I really should have written that in there. That would have been good.
it would have been good. It would have been good. Um, but I do also like the idea. I think this maybe isn't in the rules either, but you could definitely like basically create your map on the table as you're playing, right? You flip over the card and this room is to the left, this room is to the right. We're going to go two rooms down the hallway, and you can
Mhm.
kind of map it out as you go on the table. It'd be an interesting experience. Uh,
I enjoyed writing that scenario. There was a lot of fun there. The 1914 setting is great because it is pre all of the magical craziness, but you
mhm.
can hear the echoes. It's coming.
Yeah, it's like a oncoming train wreck or whatever.
Right.
Like it's yeah, it's really great. Stephen Wu in particular is the kind of the head of that project. Like I know you guys met, did
Mhm.
the team, the writing team did some meetings and
Yep.
figured out like some balance stuff beforehand. So that was it's and then that was like almost a year ago, a year and a half ago that you guys were working on that. And then like it was on
Yep.
Kickstarter and then now it's in layout and like it's just it was really gratifying when I was going through recently and seeing the layout and like, oh yeah, we made this. This is a cool thing. Because
You all have a lot of cool things coming up, though.
oh, well, yeah, tell me about it. There's gotta stay busy, gotta stay busy. But also there's just there's so many cool projects that people want to pitch us, and they're like, well, we
Mhm.
have to do that, um
We'll add
but
that to all of
also,
our copious free time.
well, right, I mean, that's one of the reasons why it takes so long to do anything is because there's only so
Yep.
much time in any one day. And this isn't like really a full-time gig for any of us. We're all kind of freelancing,
Right.
even though my name's on the company letterhead or whatever. Like it's not like they're paying my mortgage. Not like I'm paying
Right.
myself my mortgage.
Yep.
Um, uh, anyway, that's a not what I want to talk about.
Okay. Fire away.
So I wanted to tell you one other thing about specifically your adventure, and this is not a dig on our editor, who is my sister, a lovely person.
Mhm.
But Sarah marked a bunch of stuff in your adventure that was like, this is awkward wording, and it could be rephrased this way. And I'm like, no, 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 reject all those changes because this is how like this is the Appendix N feel that I'm sure was intentional on the part of
Yep.
August. So like,
The
yes, I'm
slightly
going to
off wording and the yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna keep the awkward wording because it's like it's what I'm sure it was intentional. I'm sure it was intentional. So uh
It seemed to fit with the whole theme. So yeah.
right, that there's like I don't know, like you're not as like all there's like a certain set of words, right? Like in whatever. I mean, the horror stories of the early 20th century have like a bunch of the same way that they talk about things. And so those are the like the sort of the canon terms, right? So you didn't use
Ephemeral ichor.
non-Euclidean and you didn't use
I didn't.
Eldritch, but those are like the top tier ones. But there's the other ones that are like, yeah, I know where this is coming from. This is good. This is what it was. This is what it's referencing. I see that.
It was me showing my roots, I'll be honest. I
And that's
read a
totally
lot of
fine.
Lovecraft too.
Sure. And there's another writer who did like he just did straight up pulp, and it's like it's one of the adventures that's in the from the Beyond the Veil, where he's like pulling from like that pulp adventure side, like Buck Rogers stuff, like.
Oh, nice.
And so it's like another flavor on top of the Never Going Home stuff, where it's like this is Never Going Home, but it's a little bit weirder. That's why it's in the weirdest book of all. But it's very
Oh,
again,
I think I know the one you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
pulling from, yeah, it's the and now I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, I mean it's I like the having seen so many different people work on it. They all bring their own sort of baggage, but in like a good way, right? It's the stuff that you've got in your brain because of what you've been consuming, and you get to put it down in this
Yep.
slightly different way, you know.
It's the joy of an anthology where you have all these different flavors. Yes, it's all one meal, but every dish is different.
Right.
I love it.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to say about the what is I have the name of it here in front of me. It is Rituals and Reveille. Uh, Not a bad title. Anything else you want to say about that adventure?
Well, I hope that okay, the rituals half is very obvious because once you
Hmm.
start going through, half the cultists there are in the middle of rituals because they're trying to contribute to the whole tearing of the veil that we know happens in 2 years, but they're trying to speed it up.
Hmm.
Um, However, what I'm really hoping is that both GMs and the players will figure out the reveille part, which is that they're attempting to wake the darkness,
Mm.
and that you're trying to silence the reveille before it happens.
Interesting. Interesting. That's some subtle wordplay there. I like it.
I gave it a shot.
Uh, all right. Well, thanks for talking us through that. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And we'll maybe there'll be more in the future. Like who knows what the future of Never Going Home holds. Like
Sure.
we've done all the years now. We're not planning to do any more books, but if the interest remains there for the game, we'll need more adventures, maybe forever. Who knows? So
Just hit me up. You
if
know
you've
where
got
I
any
live.
other, that's right, that's right. So I do want to give you a chance to talk about some of your other stuff because you talked about your origin stories and we've talked about my stuff, but like you do, like I said at the beginning, you do a lot of different stuff. So like you just did, I mean, I don't know what you want to talk about. I know that you did like a video game implementation or like an app implementation of the Lone Wolf series, like, and you're like writing new stuff for that, like, or you want to talk about your podcast or something else that I don't know about that you want to talk about? Like, what else is going on with
Well, I
you?
definitely want to talk about Sound Realms because those are some crazy heavy metal Swede awesome guys. The company's called Sound Realms, and the game you're talking about is called Fortress of Death, and it's based on a I don't know if you'll remember these, but in the late 80s, well, mid 80s really, there was this thing where you could dial a 1-800 number or 1-900 number, and no, not those. Get that out of your head.
Well, I was
Not
thinking
those
of the
one nine
Dial song from They Might Be Giants. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay, all right. Well, there were all kinds of 1-900 numbers at the time, but
Sure.
one of them was something that Joe Deaver, the creator of Lone Wolf, did called Phone Quest, where you could play through a role playing adventure using your phone. And if
Cool.
it was various audio tracks, and you'd make choices, and then a new track would play, and that was incredibly popular at the time. Well, Sound Realms approached Home Guard Press, which is the publisher that I work for, doing the Lone Wolf stuff, and they wanted to update it. They wanted to create a new one that would just be on your app. You wouldn't dial a number, but you'd still play it on your phone. And that's what Fortress of Death is. In fact, I'm putting the finishing touches on the basic adventure even as we speak.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it is set to, it had a Kickstarter, and I think it is set to publish worldwide like early September or a few weeks before.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Well, we'll yeah, I have to keep the lookout for that. So it's I mean, is it I know some of the answers to this because I listened to Journeys Through Magnemon. But you know, it's like is it like you the same sort of thing where you're like you listen to the audio on your phone and then you push seven to continue and then
That is
hear
just about
what that does and
exactly it. You don't use the keypad, but
oh,
you do. But it is a fully functional app, and it has fantastic audio. When I say heavy metal crazy people, I really mean it. The Oscar, um, they're they're fantastic, and they were actually in a heavy metal band. I think
all
they still
right.
are, to be honest. But so the voiceover is this nice growling audio where he tells you about the ichor dripping from the walls.
Iker, that's one of those key words
One of those
that
keywords. We were right there, yeah.
uh,
But the voiceover is fantastic, and I wrote both male and female voice parts as well.
cool.
And they're currently casting the female voice actor, but the male voice actor is Guy Splanders, who has also a fantastic video podcast, an audio podcast. I think it's called How to Be a Great GM. He does the male voice acting in the game, and it's excellent, really excellent.
Cool. So how much this is a question that is a genuine question. I'm not just setting you up to talk about it. Like, because I don't remember if you talked about this before, but the how much of the how much more content have you added relative to the script of Dial a Dungeon or you know whatever the I forget I've already forgotten what you called it originally the phone tree game from back in the day like I is it is it just a new version of that or is it that but with 60% more content added like
This is all completely original. It's the
okay
same setting, but all of it is completely new. And that is both because we wanted to create something that was new, and also kind of tragically because the original scripts and the original writing have all been lost. There are pieces of it out there, but nobody has a complete thing.
hmm,
So we just rewrote everything from scratch.
yeah
It's brand new, and it is longer in length even than a Lone Wolf book. So it's an even bigger adventure than any one of those books would be.
cool cool yeah I guess there's no printing costs then just you know voice acting costs is different I guess
Pretty much. And it also allows you to do things you can't do in a book.
hmm.
Like we have some of the rooms that change, the text in them changes the more times you visit them. Like,
Okay
and if you make a choice that, like, normally in a book, it would be if you haven't been here before. Well, in the
right
phone app, we just don't have that choice at all since you've been there before, and the app can keep track of it.
yeah that's cool is there like dice rolling as well that is that
But
integrated into
the
the
dice
app
rolling's
or
in the background. You make your choices, and then the app handles your chances.
okay that's cool
But
I
it's a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying getting it finally finished because I want people to play it.
yeah I mean this is it's pretty cool I recently myself I missed Lone Wolf was not a thing that I did when I was a kid I you know I only heard of it probably after Brandon met you and he was telling me oh I met this guy and he gave me this book and um Uh, but since then I've checked out the Project Eon page where they have a lot of those things reconstituted as scans of the old art and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I recently played the first in the Freeway Warrior series. I finally
Oh,
got to the
excellent.
end of it. It that 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 was it was hard. I cheated. I'm not I did not
It's okay.
I didn't
Just
play it
about
legit.
everybody does, because yes, they're really hard books.
I don't know how you would get through it legit, but the reason I bring this up is because I was playing it on my phone, right? Because it's a
Right.
website, so I'm on the phone and I've got the photo saved on my phone of the random roll page, and so when it tells me to pick a number instead of turn into like page 300 at the back of the book, I'm like moving my hand above the phone with my eyes closed so that I can pick a number like you would have had to do from the book in the back in the day. So
Hmm.
I think it's pretty interesting to having just played one of these style of books on my phone. I'm like, oh, if you just that's why I was asking about the dice. Like, is it
Hmm.
it's all just happens in the background. Interesting.
Yeah, the app takes care of the random number part.
Cool. And you're
Yeah,
just wait, you just say I want to do this and it tells you whether you succeed or not. It's
pretty much.
straightforward.
It
Cool.
offers you your choices, and then you take your choice, and you move on, or you die. The one thing that's great about, I say great, I mean, I don't know how people are going to react, but I hope that they'll love it, is that one of the things that the guys at Sound Realms wanted me to do was every page where there's a chance that you could die, they actually have a specific thing called death text, which is a paragraph or two that describes your grisly demise. And those have been fun to write.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like it. There's almost no more perfect assignment for you than we need we need 95 paragraphs about gruesome ways people can die.
That's almost accurate. Again, you just about guessed correctly. I think it's just over 100 death text sections so far.
Nice. Incredible. All right, August. Well, we'll make sure to put I'll link the Kickstarter in the description of the video. Is there anything else that you have that you would or that you've been working on or what's coming up next from you that you want to shout out or promote your podcast? I don't know. What
Oh,
else?
I,
What
I
else?
would love to promote the podcast. The podcast is Journeys Through Magnamund. And for any Lone Wolf fan, or really any fantasy gaming fan, it's a great in-depth look. The podcast is actually the baby of Jonathan Stark. He's my co-host. And although sometimes I really feel like I'm his co-host because he asks most of the questions and I just talk.
Well, you're the lore guy, right? I mean,
I,
you're when you say that I almost made this joke earlier, like when you say that like the notes have been lost for the old phone game or whatever, I'm like, well, what'd you do with them? Because you've got all the notes.
I do. I do. I have Joe's old notebooks because when I started writing the first role playing game based on it, that was what he sent me so that I'd be able to write the game. And so I do actually have all of his notes, but the phone game just wasn't in there.
Yeah.
It made me
So
sad.
so sorry to go backwards with that, but like this is yeah, I mean the dynamic is like you're the expert on the lore and your co-host is asking you the questions and sometimes reading fan questions and you kind of just go through the books and I don't
He
know,
keeps
you're
trying to
the
get me too. He keeps trying to go off script and ask me questions he doesn't think I can answer.
well,
And usually I can.
I mean, you're very I mean, I don't know how much gets edited out or whatever, but I've listened to it for I mean, I've caught up on all the episodes or whatever.
Oh,
Maybe
good,
maybe
good.
there's maybe the newest one I'm not caught up on, but like I've been listening. Again, even though I don't know anything about uh the Lone Wolf series before I started listening, part of the reason why I started listening was to figure out what it's all about, because obviously it's a thing that people like.
Hmm.
So I can confirm that like just general gaming fans will have something to appreciate there.
There's so many great stories, and the podcast touches on them, which I love.
Well, and I like the hearing all the minutia, right? Because not only can you reference I mean, this is not exactly the same, but like I read all the histories of Middle Earth where you get to read the like draft versions of the Silmarillion that
Hmm.
have like, Christopher Tolkien saying like, well, and then this paper was, you know, old exam paper, and I don't know why he kept it for 20 years before he used it, but that must be what it happens because like he wasn't
Yep.
even at that, it's like those sort of notes about like the process of the creation of the thing are fascinating to me. So in that respect, like when you're giving those on the show, it's like he planned this out, or this is in the notes, or like, yes, there's one obscure reference to this thing which never appeared in the book, and I will tell you
But
now.
so you like our behind our within the margins section that's at the
Uh,
back of the podcast.
well, it's the whole podcast is that way, but yeah,
Oh,
I
good,
mean
good.
the marginalia is among my favorite bits of the show.
Mine
Um,
too. Mine too.
so I mean, I've talked about it, but you could say more about it if you want. Like I don't know what the
I would just love people to check it out. Honestly, you can find it on just about all of the major podcast suppliers. I find that Spotify. It's really weird. I don't know why it is, but I find that Spotify has the cleanest files.
hmm,
The the audio seems better on Spotify to me.
all right,
It might be a sampling rate thing. I'm not sure,
yeah,
but
I
by all means, I
that's
would love people to try it on Spotify. It's Journeys Through Magnamund.
Journeys through Magnemund. It's yeah, it's there's RSS out there. You can get it in whatever podcatcher you want.
Sure, sure.
Um, uh, Yeah. So that's cool. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Like
Um,
all the things
Sounds
that
good.
August is up to. Um,
About 5 things at the moment I can't talk about.
yeah. Oh, well,
I'm
that's
under a
exciting.
lot of NDAs. It's kind of scary.
That's, I mean, that's like good though, right? Because
Oh, it
that
is.
means like I mean, obviously you're busy, you're going to get paid for a bunch of work, so congratulations on that. But also like
Whoa, 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 wait, wait, wait. There's money
there's
involved?
I
Nobody told me.
tens of dollars, August, tens of
Tens of
dollars.
dollars. I can buy Happy Meals, maybe three. Yeah,
Uh,
but I do have a lot of projects out there at the moment.
Yeah, I mean but like the thing it's like I don't usually put writers that work for Wet Ink under NDAs because like nobody cares. We're too small for that. So if you're under NDAs, that means that there's probably some cool stuff that's like big name, again, air quotes, big name stuff, you know.
I would
Yeah,
say so,
yeah,
actually. At least a couple of things I would call big name IPs.
that's cool. That's cool. Because getting to work for that stuff is pretty neat. Like uh yeah, to be a contributor. Like I mean, I know a bunch of the people that have worked on the Star Trek Adventures book for Modifius, and it's like they're basically
Modifius is
like
a great, yeah, they're a
adding
great company.
canon material to the Star Trek universe. Like how cool is that for them?
Yep.
You know. Um well, and you did the Battle on Five, so that's cool too.
And Star Wars. I did Clone Wars stuff.
Cool.
And
Cool.
I loved working in that universe. It was great. The approvals process was really arduous, but I
Yeah,
really loved working for Star Wars.
that's cool. Maybe I don't know if I choose to replay the tape and make different choices, maybe I would end up as a iterate freelancer instead of a, person who makes all my own games.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with it. A Wedding puts out some amazing stuff. Your booth at Gamma this year looked great.
Thank you.
Really did.
We've been we've been working hard, but also we've been, I guess, fortunate, but also we put together big teams of people who are really good at doing their work, like you.
I still
You're
want
part
those
of
cards. I really want those cards.
which ones? The
Your the game you all have where you play through the night in a haunted house.
ah Yes, everyone is anticipating that arriving
I'm
soon.
really looking forward to it.
I don't even have a copy of that game, so
That's not fair.
it's they're all that's a whole other show. Like the vagaries of the production process and ending with the fulfillment process at the end of all the other processes
Oh yeah,
is it
I'm
just
I'm well aware of it.
it takes
Been there
time,
before.
and I'm not in charge. If look, I mean, it's like, we had to, I mean, it's like we could send them all out ourselves from like the basement, but then like that would also take a long time.
Yep.
That's not what we're set up to do. So then you send it to somebody who's that's what they're set up to do, but then that still takes time. So I don't know. It's always a challenge.
Fulfillment is its own animal. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the everyone will have their games all at the same time, hopefully. Like hopefully they'll
Yep.
be the wait will be worth it. Because the few samples that we've gotten to see, you saw it at Gamma. The
Yep.
it came out great. It's gonna be great. I can't
Oh,
wait
it
for
looks
everybody to
amazing.
get their
It
stuff.
really does.
So, and they'll be there. We can make more of that too. Talking about like future projects. There's more of that we could make. So maybe you'll write a haunting tale yourself someday.
Oh, that would be great. I'd love that.
All right. We can keep chatting, but it's about the time that we should wrap this up.
Fair
So,
enough.
August, if you want to be found on the internet, other than the podcast and everything, is there a place that you can be found directly if anyone wants to like ask you obscure Lone Wolf questions or congratulate you on the Star Wars stuff you wrote years ago?
Honestly, I think these days the easiest way to reach me would just to be Facebook.
Hmm.
My Facebook is simple, August Hahn. Or I maintain a pretty close presence on the Lone Wolf Discord, and I always accept I accept friend requests, I accept DMs from there. So anybody who wants to reach me, those are probably the easiest two ways.
There you go. Get on if you're a fan of Lone Wolf, get on there and talk to August.
And yell at me for whatever you want.
Well, don't yell. Don't. No one should yell at August. August is
Oh, I'm used to it by now.
what that that doesn't make it better. No one should yell at anyone.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough.
all
But
right,
yeah, absolutely. Anybody who wants to pop on and ask me questions, I'm happy to do it.
excellent. August, thank you so much for your time today to talk to us about this stuff, and thanks for contributing to Never Going Home, being a big supporter of Wet Ink, and yeah, we'll see you at the next con.
All right. I love you guys. See you later.